Hi everyone, a Thursday night. Welcome to the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. Well, it's our last full week of big rugby internationals we're going to be talking on tonight. We do have, of course, the big test match next week between England and South Africa, which we'll certainly focus on. But we're going to get stuck into those. And we've also got the not-so-small matter of the South Africa A game taking place in about half an hour's time. I think we'll may not be totally finished the show by that time, but we'll certainly hopefully catch most of that game as well. But let's start by introducing the panel. I'll go down to the bottom of the screen first. It's Coyle, otherwise known as Patches. Patches, welcome. It looks very dark there in the UK.
Yeah, it is. I still can't get used to it, man. It's dark by 4:30 in the afternoon, and it feels like bedtime. But meanwhile, it's only 4:30, and yeah, it takes a bit of getting used to, I must say. And we've had a tremendous amount of rain the last week to 10 days, but it's dry tonight. But yeah, it's dark, man. I can't wait till summer. But in the meantime,
so you're going to see me over there in winter first, and then coming on, joining us as well, it's Oraclepedia, Oracle Rugby, of course. Oracle, good to have you on the show, mate. Maybe we can twist each other's arm for a bet.
I'm just looking at the two of you and thinking I had both of you in the same house at the same time, so you'll recognise the surroundings behind me. But I'll tell you, Brendan, I was in England, and I actually didn't notice that dodgy 4 o'clock sunset, because I was a youngster and I was working at night and I was jolling at night when I was off. I didn't even see the daylight, and I know that there weren't not much of sunshine around. But I'm getting home at 4:15 in the afternoon, and the sun is, I'm going to say, like 60 degrees. It's like way up in the sky. I'm absolutely loving it. Yeah, I do feel sorry for you, but I don't feel sorry for you, if that makes any sense.
No, absolutely.
Welcome to all the boys in the live chat. We're going to get stuck into it. And guys, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the game taking place tonight. That's Bristol Bears against South Africa A. We'll touch on that, and then we'll go into the internationals. I've sort of ranked them. I brought the big ones towards the front of the show, so they're not necessarily in game order, and then we'll touch on some of the smaller ones at the end of the show. I'm thinking there of like the Romanias v Canadas, where I doubt many of us have done a lot of homework on. But Brendan, I'm going to start with you. Bristol Bears, I don't know how far Bristol is away from you, if the conditions will be dry there as well. We've got plus 11.5 against South Africa. There's also plus 12.5. There was an early minus 7.5. I took a little bet on that. I couldn't get a big bet down, but I managed to grab some of that. Handicap seems to have stabilized now, and we've got a total points line of 56.5.
There's been a tremendous amount of rain, like I mentioned, and that pretty much ended this morning. Ashton Gate, though, has an artificial pitch, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. I had a good look at the Bristol side today. It's a reasonable side considering they have lost a few players. I'd say it's probably their strongest side that they could probably put out. Ashton Gate holds 27,000 people odd, and it's sold out. It's a full house. So there will be a tremendous vibe in the match. I had a good look at South African A. And yeah, at this stage, I'm tempted a little bit by the plus 12.5 and then the under 56.5. The bigger bet will be on the under 56.5. I'm leaning mainly, Bristol will want to play particularly well. That's what I'm hoping in front of their home crowd, while the box defense should be reasonable. But again, I think that there could be some problems with the box combinations. They should certainly win the battle up front, I'd say, but I just don't know if they'll be able to capitalize and put a big score on. So the main bet will be the under 56.5 points for me, and I might just have a small nibble on the plus 12.5. And the only reason for that is just that, Bristol are at home. They haven't performed great this season in the Premiership. I thought they were going to do so much better. But, they might just surprise us tonight. But, yeah, the unders is my main call there.
Right, Gavin, anything for you on this game?
Sorry, I noticed that it was my internet that failed there. I was saying that Brendan's not lucky to be in the UK and lucky to be in the UK at the same time in different words. All right, so every time this happens, and you, Brent, you might remember this, maybe Brendan as well. I said this last week on the WhatsApp group. South Africa sent a team to Connacht in 2006, I think, or 2007, maybe 2005. Handicap was minus 36. And what happened? It was an absolute dog show. There were 3,000 people in attendance, which was a a stadium maximum wherever they played that day. And Connacht, I think, lost by 3. South Africa just got up. I think it was a half-time draw. Last week, we saw a very similar result against Munster. I'm going to tell you the only bet to take here is the plus. In fact, I wouldn't even bother with a plus. Take Bristol Bears to win the game on the board. Why? Because you don't want to get involved in big money, granny's pension, whatever you want to call it. Don't draw money. Don't make deposits. Use money you've got already in your betting account. But quite frankly, the team always gets up. The home team, the club team, always gets up for this. And the South African A team, as much as I would like to think that they're trying to win this game, of course they're trying to win the game, but nobody wants to get injured. They all want to get into the Springbok team. This is a scout gateway or a scout visual, whatever you want to call it. No ways I ever back an A team or a country team against a club. I'm never going to do it. I'm always going to go for the club team that's playing them. So for me, Bristol on the board, and looking at the handicap of 11.5, I'm guessing it's probably close to 7-2, 4-1 to win the game. You know, I'm not going to stick a lot of money on it, but that's the bet I'm going to take. I wouldn't even look at anything else in this. I know you're talking about points, and you guys are better at that than I am. But for me, this is a Bristol Bears win this game on the board.
Right, Bears, you can get about 9-2, even perhaps 5-1 in their chances. Gav, we'll stay with you for the next game. It's the first of the big internationals, Italy against South Africa. South Africa have surprised me by naming what looks a pretty strong side. You know, I think a lot of people expected more changes. But at the end of the day, I think the South Africans have taken the view that they have to get a win in this game. And Italy, of course, surprised Australia last week with a victory. We've got a big cap here, though, Gavin. Do we go on the plus here, or can the box run away with us? Gav?
Yeah, I'm going to ask one question, whatever they call it. Is she the Simji's double ganger's boyfriend? He's in Turkish Cyprus, which is the top end of the island. I'm going to guess that's a couple of 100 kilometers away from where they're playing in Italy. Is Giant Cheese playing in this game? Because they should probably call him. The wife's called him back for the family holiday. That's got to be good news for him. 18 is probably the highest handicap we've ever had. No, she apparently said that it was somebody that looked like her that was having an affair. That's what I read in the news today, but never mind that. South Africa at minus 18. First of all, I'm very concerned. I'm going to say concerned as opposed to the English word surprised that Italy beat Australia. I am concerned. Not surprised. Of course, Italy can beat anybody, but I am concerned. And I don't know how to read too much into that. So I'm going to say South Africa are going to come back here. They arrived in both pluses, as you know, Brent, plus 4.5 against Ireland and plus 4.5 against France. So they've beaten both handicaps. So they've beaten what people have expected of them. Can they beat Italy by 19? Of course they can. And I don't know. In fact, I'm not going to say I don't know. I'm pretty sure they've played Italy in Italy since they lost that game years ago when we lost against Argentina and Japan in the same year. I'm going to take a minus here, but it's going to be a tentative one. It's a very small stake punt, but I do believe South Africa should beat this. I think the Italians are punch drunk after they win over the Australians. In fact, the Australians are in a lot of trouble. The change room the Ikes must have been chucking socks at each other. I don't think they're politically allowed to throw anything else at each other. So, yeah, that change room can't be happy. Italy this is the big win for them. It's their biggest win in the last 2 years. I'm on the South African minus here, but very, very small.
Stephen Mark's making the point that Australia made 12 changes last week. And Stephen, I'm in agreement with you. I've seen on Twitter,
Stephen,
Australian rugby public are talking about getting rid of Dave Rennie and changing the coach. And I'm saying, guys, you ran France to within a point the week before. And in fact, probably should have won that game. You then took the chance of fielding an understrength side against Italy and got beaten. But certainly don't panic, because these days you can't field understrength sides against anybody. And I think that's what South Africa is showing us here as well. I'm leaning, though, I must tell you, Brendan, to Italy on the cap here. I think they may not be quite as intense as they were last week against Australia. But for me, the box is not a side that put teams away. Although, you know, the last couple of times they have played Italy, they have won by convincing margins.
Yeah, I believe just the one change for Italy that comes in the pack. And then there are a couple of changes for South Africa. Most notably will be the old the lock pairing, right? And then Andre Esterhuizen in a first centre. So they'll have a huge ball carrier there. Yeah, Italy, what a revelation. Hey, thrash Samoa and we're deserved winners, I think, against Australia last week. Yeah, can the party keep going? That's the thing. Initially, I had a bit of a fancy for South Africa, and when the market came out at around 18.5, it hasn't really moved much. I think I thought to myself, I'm going to lean towards Italy in this one as well. You mentioned there, South Africa generally don't put sides away. They could potentially here if Italy don't show up. But for me, I think Italy, I think you just got to stay with the party, stay with the train for now. And it's not a big wager, but I think Italy on the plus might just be the value in this. Instead of hoping that South Africa can click and put on a big score. You know, the Boks have had two very tough games. And against France, I mean, they could have won that game, actually. So physically, they've had two huge games, and then they've got England next week. So, yeah, I'm going to lean towards Italy, just on that sort of thought process.
Yeah, I have to stick with Italy as well. You know, I handicapped this game plus 10.5, which I appreciate might have been a bit ambitious for Italy, but I do think Italy on the cap. Also, not a big bet for me, but certainly the one that will probably be thrown into the weekend's newsletter. Let's see if there are any other comments on the live chat. WJS just saying no Garbisi, and Darren looking for a live play on the game there. Right, let's move on to the next game. Brendan, we're going to stick with you. This is a big one. Scotland against Argentina. I was one of the few punters, I think, who won Wales last week to beat Argentina. I just couldn't see them lifting themselves for a second week in a row. And after a strong start, Wales came back and beat them. And now we got Scotland. I think you can get -2.5, and there's -3.5. And the question is, are Argentina going to fade away as they did in the Rugby Championship? Or can they bounce back and beat a Scotland team that came bloody close to beating the All Blacks last week?
Yeah, so first thing, the weather is good on Saturday, pretty much generally all around. That's good thing to note, except Ireland. I believe there's lots of rain in Dublin, but we'll get to that one. The referee, let me have a look. It's Carl Dixon. He used to be an unders ref. He's kind of sort of a borderline middle kind of ref now. A big change for Argentina is they've got the Leicester player, Montoya, the hooker. He's back. I think that'll provide some good turnover ball for them. Yeah, I was in Wales last week as well. It was one of my better bets of the weekend. And this week, I really fancy Scotland. Yeah, they could be disappointed in last week's loss and the way they fell off in the last 15 minutes or so when they were looking so good. A big impetus there, I think, was Finn Russell at 10. He's a superb player. And I think against a side like Argentina, he's going to have a little bit more space, and I think his confidence will grow even more so. You know, Argentina, decent side. They've had a wonderful year by their standards, certainly in the last couple of years. But I really like, if I can get -2.5, I think it's a big difference there, that 2.5, 3.5. Hopefully it won't come into play and it won't be as tight coming into the final sort of stages. But Scotland, for me, on the -2.5, that would be one of my banker bets of the weekend.
You'll certainly have to take a shorter price because I see comment coming in, and I've just quickly checked a few bookies. Still 3.5 at Sunbet, but the line is definitely moving out. 4.5 at Player Bets. So I think we can expect this, and it's already 5.5 in the UK. So
Wow.
it looks as though this line is on the march. And now I'm just going to pop to the Oracle and see if he's going to tell us that they got the wrong favorite here. Gav? I'm not sure if Gavin can hear us or if his internet's frozen there. Doesn't look promising. He's probably talking. Gav, can you hear us?
I see his eyes shifting.
Smiling. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Gav. I'm going to move on to the next game. We'll come back to Gavin on this one.
Oh, there he is.
You are.
Brent.
Oh, there you are. We
I
can't
have
hear
to
you,
say,
mate.
and I often say this to my wife. No, I'm moving.
You're moving, but we're not hearing your voice. Every now and again, we hear it. As Mark says, Gav, I think Gav, go out and come back.
Whoa. I can hear you.
Okay, go for it.
Hit me up. Can you hear?
No. Now, Gavin, sounds bad. You're going to have to go back out and come back in. I'll just take Gavin out there. I couldn't hear much of what he was saying. Brendan, let's go with you then. Wales minus 20.5 against Georgia. This is the sort of team, we talk about teams that don't put other teams away. Wales, to me, historically over the years, do not put anything away. Something's happened to my lighting. I've gone back to the old Donald Trump there. I don't know if you can see that. What's happened there? All sorts of gremlins going on tonight. I'm running for the elections. What do you think of this one?
The old orange tan, eh? Yeah, I agree with you. Wales. I mean, Welsh provincial rugby's gone to turf, and thankfully I was on the right side of the market last week against Argentina, but they're still not convincing, Georgia, yeah, I think they lost narrowly last weekend. Was it a 1920? Yeah, it was against Samoa. Yeah, they'll obviously come on with that run. I'm looking at unders at this game. The weather should be fine. The roof should be open. The handicap's dangerous. If anything, I'd probably lean towards Georgia on the plus. But Wales do have the backs to make things hard if they're in the mood. And Georgia might battle to score tries in particular. They might be able to pick up the old 3-pointers from sort of set phases and whatnot. But it could be quite difficult. Unders, I have no idea what the quote is, but I'm kind of hoping we're looking at around the early 50s. And if that's the case, I'll be all over the unders in that one.
Right, let's bring Gavin in now. Sorry, Gav, looked like we were batting to hear you. I'm going to start you on this game, then we'll quickly hop back to the Scotland game, get your views. But this is Wales against Georgia, 20.5.
You've got to go for the Georgians here, Brent. This is way too much. This is 3 tries, basically. I just can't see it. What do they say? If it looks like a duck, sounds like a duck, it must be a duck. This sounds way too high. It looks too high. It's got to be too high. It's a small punt, but I'm going Georgia here. I can't be taking minus 20, hoping they get 3 converted tries better than Georgia after that poor, absolute rubbish performance against New Zealand. I'm sorry, I'm a Georgia punter here. If I've got money at the point of the start of this game, I'm definitely a Georgia punter. I can't. It's Georgia plus or no bet. It has to be Georgia plus.
Yeah, I'm also leading Georgia. Just the only thing is, I don't think Georgia have been on the greatest form themselves, but I must be honest, I haven't watched them closely enough. Let's just get your views on this one, though. Scotland minus 3.5. Just before you were leaving, we were saying the handicap's definitely moving out here. Probably going to get 5.5, even 6.5 come match day.
Yeah, so that sounds quite interesting that it's going the wrong way, or the right way for me, actually. You did make a comment and say maybe we got the wrong favourites. I'm going to say you probably know me better than my wife. They've definitely got the wrong favourite here. I'm going to wipe out this. I always love it, and Brendan will chuckle when he hears this. When Warren Lenfurner says something on Teletrack or whatever it's called today at Greyville, you want to strike everything through it. And this is one of these, the horses had a bad run and the guy says, strike, put a line through it. Yeah. Argentina's performance against Scotland, against, I've forgotten for a moment.
Wales.
Yes, Wales. Yeah, last week, Wales.
Yes.
Put a line through that. They were quite happy that they'd beaten England before, the week before. And as I've mentioned about the Italians, they probably had a nightclub for 3 or 4 days, met all the girls, didn't go to practice, were punch drunk for the week. Yeah, I'm going to forgive them. I'm back on Argentina this week and let the boys in Europe punch this handicap up to 7 and 8 so I can get my 5-2 about Argentina on the board. I'm sorry, they got the wrong favourite here. Argentina are better than Scotland. They're better than Scotland everywhere in the world. And if it's going to be close, it's going to be in Scotland. But I was impressed with Scotland. Sorry, I'm not going to say I wasn't impressed with them. They were great against New Zealand. But when they had the fist on the neck like that, whatever, when their foot was on the boot was on the neck, they said, "Oh, I'm really sorry I upset you," and they sort of pulled back. They allowed New Zealand back into the game. That's how I read that game. I watched the players' reactions to when they were 9 points up, and I remember the commentator going, with 20 minutes to go, is 9 points enough? And he said, I don't think so. And he was right. because Scotland didn't know what to do with a 9-point lead with 20 minutes to go, 18, whatever the minutes were. They didn't know. They'd never been in that position before. And the next time they get into that position, they win the game. So all those live in running in play punters, when you see Scotland leading by 9 with 20 minutes to go, trust me, they win that next game. They don't lose it like they did last weekend. They were... Yeah, sorry. I'll just finish off by saying they were school children, primary school kids playing with high school kids. They didn't know what to do. There was no experience.
For me,
they'd never been in that position before, so they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Although for me, it was just the comparative strength of the benches there was so different. I felt New Zealand's bench really gave them the impetus. And you're right, there's a bit of inexperience about that Scottish side, but I also just felt that the quality that Scotland were able to bring off the bench was nothing compared to what New Zealand brought off there. And anyway, it was a great game. And I'm going to stick with you, Gavin. We're going into 2 big test matches now. This first one, England plus 2.5 against New Zealand at Twickenham. I've seen quite a bit of support, I think, on the Good for the Game forum for New Zealand here. What are your views?
Yes, they've got the wrong favourite again. Surely England are favourite here. How in the world can you take your salary, your lunch money, anything, and put it on New Zealand? This week's money, this month's money, this year's money, all the money you've made this year, this whatever period of time, you can't possibly want to put it on New Zealand. There's no evidence. They lost. They won. I keep starting by saying they lost. They won by 1 against Japan, but I'm sorry, they lost by whatever it was their handicap. Then they go and smash up a Wales team. I don't even know what was going on. Those actually weren't even in the match. And then suddenly they're up against the Scotland team like I've just spoken about. I'm sorry. If England don't win this game, I'm not joking, by 20, something's wrong. New Zealand are rubbish at the moment. Ireland have beaten them. Argentina beaten them. South Africa beaten them. Japan nearly beat them. And if Scotland didn't have that, I don't know what to do in the situation, they would have also beaten them. This is the worst New Zealand team we have seen, the 3 of us on the screen, in our time alive on earth. This is the worst New Zealand team. Go against them or don't have a bet. England win this game by 20 plus. 20, not 10, 8, 7, 20 plus. This is race over. This is out. Done.
I can hear a gunshot coming from Milnerton in Cape Town on Saturday evening there, Brendan. Brendan, I've got to say, my view is I tended to agree on New Zealand. I do think the new coaching changes at New Zealand, the support coaches that have come in, have made a huge difference. And look, last week's New Zealand team as well, you didn't have Richie Mo'unga at fly half. They've gone back to me now what looks their strongest side. I think England can win this, make no mistake, but I don't have Gavin's confidence.
Yeah, it's a tough game, eh?
Let's put it this way, no one's got Gavin's confidence.
Especially the 20 plus. But just referring back to that racing analogy and that Warren Laferne or whatever his name is, yeah, I mean, if that guy tips your horse, you're gone. You may as well just, start looking for another horse. He can poison, he stops trains, as they say. But anyway, I must say...
sorry, I have to ask, do you know anyone who can do that to a rugby team?
But then another racing analogy, England, 3rd run after arrest. They played decent enough against a Japanese side that, I don't know, Japan just seem to have fallen off the rails here. They're just going backwards at a rate of knots, despite going, pushing New Zealand very, very close the other day, back in Japan. So 3rd run after arrest. I looked at this English team and it looks so good on paper. So yeah, I'm in the English camp. I think there's some vulnerability. How do you say it?
Vulnerability.
Yeah,
Vulnerability.
exactly. Vulnerability. New Zealand are definitely vulnerable. I mean, the manner in which, and I do agree, I think it was the bench that just made the huge difference last week. I don't think they'll get away with it against England. England's bench is just as strong this weekend. I'm hoping if I can get plus 3.5 England, even if I take the 8 to 10, 4 to 5, that'll be my main play on the game. In points, I'm not really interested in. I think it's a French referee, that Matthew Raynell. Yeah, if anything, he might be a slightly over, but an overs ref. But yeah, I'm firmly in the English camp for this one. I'm probably a little bit biased because I kind of want to see the All Blacks beaten, but yeah, England for me, especially at the plus 3.5.
For you, quite a bit of support for England in the live chat as well. And including Johan coming in England 1 to 12 winning margin, you should get a nice price on that, probably around the 2 to 1 mark, I would imagine. Right, Brendan, we'll stick with you for this one. There's been a bit of money for Australia. They opened 14.5. I took 13.5, made it my bet of the week quite early on. Not that I don't think Ireland can beat Australia. I just think this was an overreaction from the bookies. I see the line has come into 11.5. I still would have it closer to 8.5, 9.5. So even at this handicap, I'm leaning towards Australia. What are your views on this one? And I know being an Irishman, there might be a little bit of bias there as well.
I missed the 13.5. I missed the 12.5. My best bet of the weekend is Australia plus. I just can't see this bet losing. Wholesale changes to Australia. Not a great performance against Italy, but they almost came back and won it. Losing narrowly. Like you say, they almost beat France. Australia are crap. They really are. But there's just something that's telling me that they're going to run this Irish team really close. Once again, Ireland go back to their full strength side. They look superb. But I think Australia will be good enough to stay within this cap. So I'm going to be looking for the plus 12.5 at 8 to 10. If I can still get it. If not, I'll have to go for the plus 11.5. But this is my best bet of the weekend, Australia plus.
But I'm gonna before I go to Gavin, I can tell you that everybody in the live chat agrees with us. They're all on Australia, and you and I, as hardened punters who've had, we always get worried when there's not at least one guy speaking out against it because it's almost too good to be true. But yeah, I'm firmly in the Aussie camp. I actually don't think Australia is bad as people think they are, and I think they can run the Irish close here. Mr. Oracle, what do you think on this one?
I just want to point out that Brendan mentioned Raynell. Now, I'm going to say I'm not a part-time journalist because I'm definitely not. I'm a part-time journalist divided by 20. I did write an article about that Raynell story in the Australia and New Zealand game where he awarded penalties. If I was on the, he gave New Zealand one. So if he's the referee for that England-New Zealand, then you've got no chance if you're on New Zealand because he's going to give one against New Zealand just to even up the scoreboard for the referees count for their Monday check-back meeting with their bosses. So if you are in New Zealand, I'd be very worried about that. Renell's going to pull out a penalty he's going to wait for one of those 50-50s, and he's going to pull out his whistle and he's going to say, sorry, boys, you've transgressed. It's one against you, and that could be the decider between your minus 17, your plus 17, your plus 21, or whatever it is. England win easily. This game, I'm going to tell you, I chatted to an Irish mate of mine the other day, and we looked at the crowd. He was watching the game with me here, the South African-Ireland game. Obviously, Ireland won by 4. I was quite surprised that the stadium was full, and I suggested to him that the following week they're playing Fiji. It won't be full. And to my surprise, I'd like to say, the stadium was full. Yes, there were a few, open seats at the top, upper tiers seats, the 40 euro seats or whatever they were. Right at the top, there were a couple of empty ones. But this country comes out for a rugby game, and he tells me that rugby is like the 3rd or 4th sport in the country after Gaelic games and whatever else he was mentioning. But rugby is not as big as it is in South Africa, New Zealand, and possibly even England. But, I'm looking at this Australian team and I'm seeing them lose by 1, and they're making a whole lot of changes. And as I said, they were throwing some politically corrected socks around the change room. I'm going to say this Australian team's also going to be demolished. So you were looking for somebody who's going to go for Ireland. I'm going to tell you minus 11. Are you crazy? Your first digit is wrong. It should be a 2 or possibly a 3. Obviously, it's not a 3. It's not going to be that bad. But I honestly don't think Australia come close here. I think Ireland will put them away. They'll put them away properly. Johnny Sexton's having the best year of his life. I know that there'll be people that tell me 2007, 2012 were better. I don't care. This Irish team is looking very good. They still punch drunk high on that win against New Zealand. And you were asking about the Japanese not faring too well last week because they're still in the pub from the 1-point loss to New Zealand, which is a massive win. And you guys will remember.
They lost. I must point out they lost by 8 points in that game. I think you went to the pub before the end. It was an 8-point loss.
No. You're talking about Japan.
Yeah, Japan, New Zealand. You say that they lost by 1.
8-1, doesn't matter. It was a long way from the handicap. No, don't worry about that. I did see 1 and then I walked away. I keep saying 1. You guys might be young enough to remember Italy played New Zealand under Nick Mallet in I think it was Dunedin. It was one of those South Christchurch or Dunedin. Handicap was 25. They lost by 14. And the camera went up to Nick Mallet in the box, and he was high-fiving everyone like they'd been on the plus 24.5. And it's just one of those. Japan were excited to have stayed in the cap. Italy winning the game. These teams are, whoever plays them after that, it's over. It's done. It's just they'll never, ever recover. Well, they will obviously, but it'll take a long time to recover from that. These are big wins. And New Zealand are the ones that are suffering. They're sitting there in the change room going, how did we lose by 1? Okay, 8, whatever. They're going, this is rubbish. I remember telling seriously, 5 years ago, Japan will never beat New Zealand in my lifetime. I can't even remember who I told that to, but I have to actually phone him or send him a WhatsApp and apologize, because that's something that could happen very quickly before I'm even a grandfather. And my son's 20, so time's running out there. But I'd like to say I'm really sorry I made that comment all those years ago. Yeah, Ireland minus for me here. Australia they're desperate. That result last week is heavy on Australia. They don't know how to deal with that. That's proper. I remember South Africa. South Africa got worse after losing to Italy under Nick Mallet, as it happened.
Right. You could be forgiven for thinking that was the Japanese preview. That's still to come, believe it or not, everybody. But Brendan, I was saying we needed a couple of punters to come out against Australia. We've certainly got them. We got Chan, we got Gavin. They've come out. But now I'm worried. Now, as much as I wanted punters to come out against Australia, now I'm going, oh gosh, are these guys seen something I haven't? No, but I'm sticking very firmly with my Australia guys. I don't think they're as bad a team as everyone thinks, quite frankly. Stephen says he's even more convinced of his pick now.
One important part, though, is what time is this kickoff? Is it 5:30? No, it's 8 o'clock. Okay, it's the latest one. 8 o'clock.
Which one?
There is 8 p.m. Ireland against Australia. It is Ben O'Keefe on the whistle. I do enjoy him. And, of course, he's quite a bit of rain expected. So just keep a good eye on that as well.
Right. Just as a matter of interest, we've got a few more games to get through.
Before you forget, and I'm quite sure you don't have this on your list, I better mention this very quickly. So we've seen in the last 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks, the qualifiers for the World Cup. There's one more place. So USA, Hong Kong, Kenya, and Portugal have been playing. Now, my son said to me, how does Portugal get done 75-0, 85-0, whatever the result is? Kenya, I'm sorry, if you're watching me now, I'm going to tell you, you did not pick your sevens players. You would have probably got a little closer, possibly won the game. You didn't consider the World Cup to be a big moment, but never mind all of that. Portugal play the USA on Friday night this week, South African time, Friday night, for the right to play in the World Cup. And the bookmakers will have betting on this, and it's probably going to be around about even. And I'm going to tell you, put your money on Portugal. Portugal is the right way to go. Don't worry about Ronaldo and his little explosive interview with Piers Morgan this week. Portugal will win this rugby game against the USA on Friday night. That's, never mind the other bet earlier, that is my bet of the week. Whatever you can get on Portugal, get it. That is race over. Portugal will win by more than 10. Portugal will come into the World Cup next year.
Right, Portugal, the bet of the week there. So keep an eye out for betting there, guys, on that one. Right, let's go into what I call some of the lesser internationals. But I think it's a bit insulting probably to the teams, but, I wanted to make sure we got the big ones out the way. Kevin, France minus 22.5 against Japan. Do the French put the Japanese away here, or is it a bit of a Japanese bounce back after England?
So I took a bet a few years ago where I got a deposit match, and my match was even money, and I took a 9-10 shot, and I jumped in with France to beat Fiji to get me over the even money line, and France lost to Fiji. I'm going to tell you right now, take Japan plus France. Do not put teams away. This Japanese team has come off their little high of losing by less than 10, I'd like to say, against New Zealand. Japan are good for this plus. Plus 22.5 is too much for this French team. They're probably going to field a weaker team, which is what I'm expecting. And even if they don't, they're not going to try and do anything stupid, and the Japanese are motivated to come close here. They've come close in 2 big games, as you've said earlier. They've done well in the last 2 weeks. I'm going to go Japan plus. Not a big bet, but Japan plus definitely gets my vote here. I wouldn't take France minus.
Right, I'm just going to go have a look. I know Thoughts on Sports, he quite a good forum post together. He was also predicting the total points. I just want to see what he says. French traditionally bad to back on a big minus, but he actually expects that trend to break. He thinks they're going to pick a strong. He says rumored to be picking the strong side, so you can see the cap actually shifting out there. Brendan, you got any views on this one?
No, other than I haven't seen any team selections. I'd presume Japan will probably try and go with the strongest team they can. It much just depends on the French and what sort of team they pick. And if Thoughts for Sports thinks, the tendency seems to be a strong French side, then it certainly could go out. That's a wait for me. Wait and see what the teams are, and then possibly maybe try and get a bigger Japan plus if France dish out a strong side. But yeah, a small bit on the plus, Japan for me. Hoping, they were so bad last week. And then they were quite good in Tokyo or wherever they played, when they ran New Zealand close. So I don't know, benefit of the doubt, but they do seem to be on the decline anyway. But maybe a small bet on the plus. I think the game's been played in Toulouse as well, which could be a little bit in sort of the visitors' favour, perhaps.
So the French should expect to lose.
Yeah.
I see, just quickly, we got the Portugal. WJ, is that a 2.7? I'm guessing that's a 17-10 on Portugal.
Yeah, and Farid's unfortunately said something that was incorrect. They're not playing at home. These games are all in Dubai. And Brendan, you'll remember you used to be in a scorer, I think, at the Dubai Sevens. It's at the same stadium.
Yeah, it was indeed for the Sevens, yeah.
They're all playing in the same stadium.
I remember that, the great scoring scandal. I remember that now.
Yeah.
So that World Cup qualifiers, all 4 teams are living around Dubai, and they're playing Friday night. They all jump on a plane on Saturday, go home. So this is Friday night in Dubai. It's not in America. It's not in Portugal.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm just laughing.
I'm with you on Portugal as well, I must say.
You like it?
At 17-10, I'm very excited. Jeez, I can't wait to try and find some money and get on that, because that's.
So Farid, there's the first time for you there. Oracle's done more homework than you on the game, and he's pointed something out to me on that one. Farid reckons US are still too strong. Right, gents, let's move on to the next game. Am I right in saying the Bristol Bears match hasn't kicked off yet? Because I don't see any live.
It hasn't.
No, Brent, Flash Score didn't even have it earlier, so it won't be live there. They don't have it. They'll probably pick it up later when somebody complains.
Because all the bookies had it at 9:30, but maybe it's only starting at 9:45, perhaps, like you thought, Brent.
So I was on Paddy Power a few seconds ago trying to get my under 56.5 on, and then they suspended the betting.
Okay.
Which they
so they probably had the start time set at 9:30. But let's go Tonga, Uruguay. Yeah, we got Tonga minus 15.5.
I'm leaning towards Uruguay there. These games are played in Romania, and in what's it?
You've done more homework than Farid.
Yeah, it's Bucharest. I think, or thereabouts. There we go. Started 3-0 to SA. Okay, cool. Thanks. Thanks, Chad. I like Uruguay on the plus 15.5. But not a huge bet, obviously. I don't even know if I'll be able to see any of the game being played on any of my dodgy sites, but Uruguay on the plus for me.
Yeah, I'm actually pleased I'm coming over to the UK after all the rugby, because it seems like we get better coverage of the rugby here than you do, Brendan.
Yeah, at times, that's for sure.
We do.
Yeah. And it's all spread over all sorts of things. Something will be on Sky, something will be on Premier Sports, which has now become VIP TV. And then there's also, what's the other one? BT Sport as well. So you've got to have all these contracts with all these different guys, and it's not all in one package.
Yeah, don't worry. As long as you've got them up and running, all of them, by the time I get there, some Heineken Cup, I don't want to miss anything. Now, Gav, Tonga minus 15.5. I think I agree with the comments on the live chat as well. I think Tonga are going to pile on the points here. I think they'll win this comfortably. What are your views?
Is this game in Europe? I'm assuming it is, because if it is, then I have to go for Uruguay, because they've only played once between the two teams, and Uruguay beat them. Uruguay have qualified for the World Cup. They beat USA, who I was talking about earlier, having to play Portugal for the right to be in the tournament. This Uruguay team is a lot better than the one that lost 132-0 to South Africa in East London in 2005, where whoever it was scored 4 tries. This Uruguay team, I don't know them. Obviously, I don't even know the New Zealand team, never mind the Uruguay team. This just seems too high. It's crazy. If Tonga was at home, if this game was in that little island in the South Pacific, I'd say maybe a minus. But I'm definitely saying Uruguay can win this game, never mind just a plus.
Right, let's move on to Canada, Namibia. And I saw a comment, I think it was from Darren earlier, I'll bring up now. Canada minus 6.5 against Namibia, Gav.
Yeah, so this was interesting. I actually had a punt on Namibia last week. They played Spain, and they were 22-10, I think. They were 15-12 down at one point and lost 34-15, I think it was in the end. They lost by 20-odd points. And I said to my kid, and he said to me, Dad, Namibia in the World Cup already. They don't need to win this game. And he's right. Spain were obviously banged up for fielding an illegitimate player or a non-registered player who happened to be a South African. So, I'm not surprised Spain beat Namibia. Can Canada beat Namibia? Of course they can. This game is probably in Europe as well. If it's the same Namibian team that lost to Spain, I'm going to say jump on the -6, except I'm going to say jump on the -6 by your salary divided by 500. So if you earn 10 grand, you need to put $20 on this. That's your line here. You can't go bigger than that, but go Canada minus, and do not, under any circumstances, put a lot of money on it.
Well, Brendan, I'm just busy working out. You know what my salary is at the moment. I mean, divide that by 5 and you still get naught, eh?
500.
500, 5, it doesn't make a difference for me. Brendan, Canada minus 6.5 against Namibia?
It's a horrible call. I mean, Canada have just fallen off the radar. They're a decent side in the 90s, but they're just hopeless. Kevin says,
when Christian Stewart was playing for them.
Yeah, Christian Stewart. Hey. Oh, man. And there was another guy called Snow. Was it Rod Snow? I think I can remember him.
Oh, yes.
Was he a front rower or something? Anyway, they're shocking. And
you can tell we got an old panel. This is probably the oldest panel average age we've ever had, eh?
Yeah,
and you can tell because guys are reminiscing from the 1960s and stuff like that. This is the oldest panel we've ever had.
Oh yeah, I mean this is money. I mean, if you want to burn money, this is maybe the game to do it. And
if you want to burn money,
I mean, let's be honest.
I can see them lining up and going, "Where do I burn money?"
Yeah,
I mean, if anything,
can you imagine someone who's just tuned into the show for the first time? And the first thing he hears is, "If you want to burn money, this is your game." He's like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, what the hell am I listening to? I mean, if anything, I go to Namibia on that because I think there's nothing between them really. And if Namibia, if you're getting a 6.5 start, well, maybe that's the play. But there's no way I could back Canada on a minus. That's just the way I'm thinking.
Well, we'll see if you've got any views on this game. And in fact, this is the game where I'm going to bring up a comment that Darren made earlier, and it's Romania against Samoa. He reckons Samoa minus 7.5. In this case, is a bit of minus 6.5. Is his bet of the weekend? Too much quality in the pack. And Romania have lost to Chile and Uruguay. I can't see them staying with the physicality. And Brendan, I'll give you first crack at this one.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm glad Darren's got some more insight in this one because I mean, when I saw that Samoan team playing against Italy, I mean, they couldn't string more than 3 or 4 phases together before they either knocked the ball on or it was a forward pass. It was just atrocious. So one would expect that they've hopefully improved. They've had a bit more time together. Romania, I mean, I have no idea what Romania is like nowadays. And, and to try and go back and look at, the lineups and to try and read those names and then do a cross check and try and decide who was playing and what, it's so hard. So for me, it's going to be a no bet in this game at all.
Darren, I'm sorry you weren't able to twist the arm of Mr. Patches up there, but let's see, Oracle, if you can go along for this one.
If you thought 500 was a lot, Brent, you've got to go to 2,000 now, right? So take your salary, divide by 2,000 and stick it on Romania at home to win the game on the board. Don't bother about pluses. Who gets involved in a game like this looking for a 9 to 10? You've got to go for some value. Go for some punt. In fact, take Romania -8. Romania by 10 or more. Take a small punt, divide your salary by 2,000 and have a go. Seriously, that's all you've got to stick on this. I just can't see Samoa, just like I said Tonga in the last one, I can't see Samoa arriving in that East Bloc sort of country and they're going to their little hotel and they walk out in the streets and people are looking at them like they don't know who they are and they're going to pay all those exorbitant fees for beers and whatever else because it's Europe. And no, they can't be happy there. It's an unfamiliar territory. It's not what they used to. I'm not going to say they get smashed. They get smashed in terms of this handicap. I don't know. Romania by 5 to 15.
Well, Darren comes in. He says
divide by 2,000.
But I've got to say one thing of all of you guys. I'm not going to lie. Darren's made the most convincing argument out of all of you guys. I'm sticking with him. I'm saying Darren has got confidence. Yeah. I'm
going to challenge you to get Darren on the show. It's time that Darren, with his comments, has got to put his face to his comments and start talking to us. Get Darren on the show.
Darren, if you want to come on the show, you're welcome to get hold of me. But certainly we do appreciate your comments, and particularly when they're constructive like that. Fareed also backing up that Samoa should win.
And we need Fareed on the show as well. A Darren, Fareed, Brent show would be perfect. I would line up and watch. I would pay money to watch that.
Yeah, we'll put it behind a paywall. How's that, boys? Anyway, so I am going to be siding with Darren there on that one. But, gents, let's go into the best bets before we cut off and go and watch. Hopefully the South Africans win. Well, if you guys are on the plus and I'm on the early minus, somewhere around 9 to 11 points. But best bets, and we'll start with you, Oracle. What are your best bets for the weekend?
Seriously, I'm not joking when I tell you I really, really like Portugal. I've watched this qualification. I followed it over the time. I'm always that kind of person that wants to fill up my little brackets and put the teams in. And I've been watching this for a while. Portugal will beat USA on Friday night. That is my best bet of the weekend. And I know it's a tier 2 kind of game and you should spend a little bit less money. I've broken a couple of rules here. I've had a bit of a bigger bet than I'm about to have a bigger bet than I'm going to have, especially considering I'm seeing 17 to 10. I think it's huge value. It's probably around about +4 or +5. Definitely my best bet. Second best bet for me is England to beat New Zealand. And the third best bet is Argentina. So if you're going to have a treble, Portugal, England, Argentina, all on the board, that should do it for the weekend.
Yeah,
pay for Christmas lunch.
Nice price on that treble. Just a reminder that my best bet goes out tomorrow. I was on a hell of a nice run with the best bet. And then last week, unfortunately, France -4.5. They only won by 4. I didn't feel too hard done by, although they missed that conversion, which I knew when they missed the conversion, they'd get another crack at a penalty.
Sorry, Brent, did you say you took -4.5 red cards, or did you take -4.5 in the game? I'm not sure.
Taken the red cards, yeah. It was, but yeah. So, and also the ACCA, and I'm going to go up to Brendan for his best bet and say we did take Brendan's Saracens -2.5 halftime handicap as the last leg of the ACCA, and it was horrible watching the flash score, Brendan. I mean, gee whiz, they conceded 27 points in the first half, and then the Chiefs, but all they come back and win the game.
They came back to win the game. Absolutely. Oh man, just one of those horrible games. I mean, I like Gavin mentioned earlier. Just scratch that one off. I mean, can you believe Saracens leaking 27 points against Saints at home, and then storming back to almost beat the handicap? I think. But anyway, my in order of preference, the honey trap I'm always worried about, but for me, Australia on the plus, best bet of the weekend for me, followed by Wales unders, and Scotland. I'll have to try and get the -3.5. That might be the best I can do at the moment. And after that, probably England. So probably, I'm feeling confident this week. So I just hope there's no egg on the face come Sunday evening.
Should be a good punting weekend. I must say, my weekend started off so well last week. I had that big bet on New Zealand
with the blue.
And I never got an opportunity to trade, and it was wonderful. They won the game, dramatic, good rugby, brilliant rugby.
No, the women's game you talking about.
Yeah, and then after
I didn't watch that. I saw New Zealand won. They were the plus team, right?
They were the plus, but it was a hell of a game. Look, England also got an early red card there, which certainly didn't help them. And I can honestly look at that and just say it was one of those things where things just went right for New Zealand on the night. I think England probably still slightly the better team. But anyway, I had a nice win, so I was always going to make money on the weekend. But the France game was pivotal for me, and I just, unfortunately, when that handicap went missing, it was sort of set things in motion, and I gave quite a bit of them a bucks back. But hoping for a strong weekend and a strong finish. And first of all, to the boys in the live chat, thanks a lot, Fareed. I saw your message. You say he's game to come on the show, so definitely drop me an email or a tweet or whatever, and I'll pull you on sometime, probably next year, because we're running out of time for this year's shows. I don't know what's going to happen when I'm in the UK. I may have to get someone else, because I think there is Heineken Cup rugby. It would certainly be nice to keep the show going over that time. But anyways, and to the boys who joined me tonight, Gavin Cohn. Gav, thanks for joining, mate. Hope you have a good weekend. Do you want to have you want to have a little bet on the Ireland Australia handicap with me or not?
No, I actually want to take Portugal USA with you boys if you're interested. Let's go off the board. Let's go off the charts here with form and all these huge teams. Let's punt to which team's going to the World Cup. I'm on Portugal. Do you want to take me on?
Okay, I'll go USA.
All right, just 500. I'm happy.
Okay, 100%.
We'll considering they were 17-10. I'll take +4 Tino bet. How's that?
No problem. Whatever you want.
All right.
And then Gav, if you want Scotland against Argentina, we can have a monkey bet as well.
Absolutely. No, I can go more than 500 in this one.
Are you happy with 3.5, or do you prefer 4.5?
I like the number. Let's do a number, 3 or 4, whatever you want.
Okay, we'll go.
Tino bets I like that kind of thing. A little bit of safety.
Okay, 4.5. How's that? I'll go with Scotland minus.
All right. Oh no, we'll do 4 exactly. It's 4. If they win by 4, then no bet. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
5 or more, you win. 3 or less, I win.
Got it.
You want to do a grand on that?
We can do a gorilla on that.
All right, gorilla on. Done.
Johan's adding Portugal plus to his extended echo on the back of Gavin's advice. I've got to admit, when I started the show, if you told me I'd have a 500 rand bet with Gavin on the USA, I wouldn't have believed you, because I didn't even know they were playing. So, yeah, brilliant.
And more importantly, Brent, you're going to watch the game. It's actually on TV in South Africa.
Is it on TV?
No way.
They've showed all of them. They've showed all the games, the Kenyan games, the Hong Kong. They've showed all of them.
Okay, brilliant.
Well, anyway, talking of watching games, I'm gonna watch the South Africa game now. I haven't seen a score in a while. But thanks, boys. Great having you on the show as always. And look forward to chatting to you soon and watching the USA Portugal with interest. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
Thanks.
Rugby chat.
Bye.